Hello, friends. Fancy meeting you here. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show getting underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and we are broadcasting at Timms Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina at beautiful Drafts and Watercrafts, and you're invited to stop by and say hello. This is our third session out here this summer, and man, oh man, it just keeps getting better. It is a gorgeous day. I cannot tell you how beautiful it is at Timms Ford Lake. I hope it's gorgeous wherever you are, and I hope wherever you are, you would consider coming out and seeing us over the course of the next 3 hours. We'll be here until 3 o'clock or until the last person leaves, whichever comes first. One way or the other, we'd love to see you. The Curb is out here. He's making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. CJ is losing his mind over on the seat over there. I have no idea why, but I'm sure I'll figure that out at some point. One way or the other, hail, the gang is all here, and we would love to see you. It is a First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN over the course of the next 3 hours or so. That means you get to speak truth to power at 615-737-9986. That's our telephone number. Whatever you want to talk about. Here's my gift to you on these Fridays. As I like to remind you, Monday through Thursday, I take all comers. I am more available via the telephone and the super text line than I would like to say any other talk show host in the United States of America. And so you can reach me on the phone lines. You might have to wait a minute or two because I can't get to you immediately, but I'll get to you. You can call us up on the telephone and speak whatever is on your mind to the masses that listen to Super Talk 99.7 WTN from Southern Kentucky to Northern Alabama and all points in between and anywhere on the Internet. So you're able to do that via the phone lines. You can also reach us via the super text line at the same number, 615-737-9986. That's Monday through Thursday. That's every day. But on these Fridays, regardless of what you're talking about, here's my gift to you. Regardless of what you're talking about, regardless of what your subject matter is, I'm going to act interested. And that's a special gift because sometimes I'm not. But you won't know the difference. You won't know the difference on a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. So give us a call, 615-737-9986. 9986. Whether you're watching on Super Talk TV or whether you stop by and see me, you can see my, what's going on? You can see my locks for Trump. It's day 160 of me not cutting my hair in advance of the presidential election. 100. I know she's. See, it's getting long. It's getting down there too, huh? I'm getting a thumbs up over that. Locks for Trump day 160 as we began that. We began that journey on March 1st, and look where it's taken us. It's taken us to Kamala Harris being the Democrat nominee. It's taken us to November 5th, and hopefully we'll be getting that haircut. Well, one way or the other, we'll be getting that haircut on November 6th. Although Kathy was a longtime loyal listener, Kathy was offering a detailed explanation to me yesterday via email as to how this could potentially not happen. And I suggested to her that we didn't need to think about this or speak that into existence. It was a convoluted thing where I would have to keep growing my hair if, for whatever reason, mental infirmity, Joe Biden doesn't have the ability to finish out his term, and then Kamala Harris becomes president prior to Election Day, then she would not necessarily be president-elect after Election Day. I'm going to bring in an official referee to this process, and that would be the one and only Bell K. We call him Headless Bell. He refuses to participate on the television side of things, but you often hear him on radio on Super Talk. Bell, hello. Good afternoon. I continue to beg them to allow you to come out and about, but they still maintain that there are restraining orders and whatnot in place that prevent
that and the wires on the board only reach so far.
Well, that's true. You'd have to tote the board with you. So, Bell, do you understand what Kathy's bringing up, that if Kamala Harris takes over I still say she's president-elect after Election Day. Would you not agree with that?
Yes, because if you cannot be a president-elect unless an election has happened.
Right. So regardless of whether or not she is president at the time that the election happens, I would suggest that if she becomes president and Joe Biden is dispatched of before November, that frees me of all hair obligations, frankly, at that moment, I would think.
I would almost have to agree with that because I think at that point you've just upset the apple cart so much that the bet's off.
Yeah, so guys, trust me when I tell you, Bell Kate doesn't want to say that. So if Bell's refereeing this on my side, then I think I'm in a good place. One way or the other, watch for Trump Day 160. It is also episode 628 of our gatherings together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And like I say, it's our third adventure out to Twin Creeks Marina and Resort and Tim's Ford Lake in lovely Winchester, Tennessee. Come on out and see us. 615-737-9986, as I mentioned, those are our telephone numbers. Let's start here. Oh, wait a minute. Before I do that, let's go ahead and do this. Bell, I mentioned it's episode 628. There are a variety of ways to listen or watch the show. You can listen on 99.7 FM, as we mentioned. Gets all throughout the middle portion of the state of Tennessee. Clearly, you can download us and stream wherever you stream news or information or music. You may download and stream SuperTalk 99.7 WTN by typing in what I just said, and that's the way to get that going. We have our own app where you can download us and take us where you go. And then, of course, there's Super Talk TV. It is up and running on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Super Talk TV episode 628 is entitled
Matt Murphy returns to Tim's Ford Lake as the search for Bob continues. The Libertarian Lunch, noon to 3. Keep the CIA out your mouth.
We are endeavoring to find good old Bob. You know what? If Bob's not here today, I don't know what to tell him because it's such a gorgeous day out here. There's just a little bit of cloud cover. You see the hawks hovering in the sky. You see the pontoon boats on the water. Folks are coming out. It's lunchtime, so they're getting ready to have a little lunch at drafts and watercrafts right there on the water. You can see the waves just lapping over Tim's Ford Lake. I mean, it's the most gorgeous of days. And I predict, Bell, that we'll get a Bob sighting today. I have confidence that Bob has, after our interaction several weeks ago, become a loyal Matt Murphy hater. And I bet you he listens on a daily basis just to hate on me and to hate on my audacity, if you will, that I would suggest to speak on things that he would suggest I have no right to speak on. Like, I don't know, the FBI and how I think the FBI needs to be dismantled and rebuilt, or how the CIA has sadly become a corrupted organization, or how our institutions that we once leaned upon to be above partisan politics have become partisan in and of themselves. And I think that's demonstrated on a regular or daily basis. Look at the Secret Service, and not to mention the FBI and some of those other alphabet soup agencies.
So you know what they say about hate listening?
Hate listening is listening?
Hate listening is listening.
That's right. I mean, love me or hate me, just don't call me late for dinner. That's my philosophy. Kathy has clapped back on the Super Talk text line, 615-737-9986, saying no, Matt Murphy, because she would no longer be the new president-elect. That's what Kathy has stated. Okay, Kathy, I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. And, Bell, this is an official amendment to the original agreement. You ready for this, Bell? You have to sign off on this, Bell.
All right.
If Kamala Harris becomes the president, if Joe Biden steps down the presidency before November 5th, and Kamala Harris then assumes the presidency prior to November 5th, I will not cut my hair until the next presidential election in 2028.
Well, I don't have a problem agreeing to those terms.
You feel like that's a little dangerous?
The issue, though, is that I'm going to be outvoted by Erica.
Well, I'm just saying I am so confident in how I think they're playing this. They can't. Kamala and this is why I'm so confident. And this leads us right into the opening monologue, right? Understand, I have the wisdom that wisdom is knowledge and experience, right? If you absorb knowledge and you live life and experience life and observe things in your life, that creates you develop and create wisdom. As long as you're cognizant of what's going on around you and you absorb that, you've got the brain that God gave you. And my wisdom directs me as to how they are playing all of this with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz now as her running mate. And they cannot allow her to be the president because then she is going to take on every wrong thing that Joe Biden has done over the last 3.5 years. And while people like Matt Murphy and Dan Mandis and Chris Hand and Brian Wilson and many other sensible reasonable pundits have obviously put together that Kamala Harris, of course, had everything to do with the last 3.5 years, along with her president, Joe Biden. The media is trying to drive a wedge between the two of them and suggest that any good thing that has happened in the last 3.5 years, Kamala Harris was a part of. But any bad thing that's happened over the past 3.5 years, but she's just the vice president. She didn't have anything to do with that. That was, about commerce, or that was transportation, or that was the Secretary of Defense. That had nothing to do with the vice president. They have an ability to separate her from the bad and try to connect her to the good, and they're walking that fine line to November. I don't think it's going to work. I think the American people are smarter than that. I'm well on record as suggesting that the leftists that control major swaths of the mainstream media think you're dumb and they overplay their hand. But I don't believe that she can be the president, because once she gets the presidency, she takes ownership of all of this garbage. And regardless of what they think they can paint as the picture of the United States of America, they cannot lie themselves out of the grocery store. They cannot lie themselves off the gas pump. They can't lie about the economy in the same way that they lie about so many other matters. One of the reasons the immigration issue has become such a negative issue for Democrats is that they've never been able to lie to the border states. Now, every state's become a border state, and they can't lie to any of us about it because we all see it with our own eyes. I mean, I recall each time we talk about this, the sheer ignorance and audacity of the Biden administration, in that when they claimed they were opening up the borders and they were cutting out all of Trump's executive orders, simultaneous to that, a flood of illegal aliens came across the southern border because, believe it or not, they listen. And when that happened, the Biden response was not to suggest, well, maybe we've overplayed our hand, or maybe we didn't anticipate what was about to happen here. Their response was to try to cut off press access to Eagle Pass and to Del Rio, Texas, so that they could not show the American people what was going on, right? So if you too intimately connect Kamala Harris with these negative aspects of the Biden administration, she can't run the way she's running. And the way she's running is as a non-incumbent. If you listen to some of these pre-canned stump speeches that she's given, where she just inserts the name of the town that she's in, she's running as if she hasn't had control. We're going to get this economy going again. This is the way we're going to do it. And when I'm president of the United States, we're going to do this and that and the other thing. Well, you're vice president right now. I mean, you have access. Can't you just walk across the hall and talk to Joe Biden, remind him who he is and what he is, and tell him to do something now? There was an event the other day. I can't remember the specifics of it. I noted it on the X machine. Follow me on the X machine at Matt Murphy Show. That's at Matt Murphy Show on the old X, where Kamala Harris made this declaratory statement during a stump speech where she said, when I'm president, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm like, how dumb do you think we are that you're a part of the administration that led us down this road that got us to where we are over the last 3.5 years? Yet, sadly, you think we're dumb enough to believe that you didn't have anything to do with the public policy that exists right now, that you weren't supportive of the public policy that led us into the place that we are? It's odd to the point of not making any sense. The Harris-Waltz ticket has now taken up the mantra that we're not going back. And I want to talk about that during the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour as well. This idea that we're not going to go back to what exactly? They're a little nebulous, and it's a little bit unclear as to what they mean when they say we're not going back. Do you mean not going back to affordable housing and affordable car loans because interest rates are lower? Or do you mean not going back to when inflation was relatively and reliably low? Do you mean not going back to where working class families saw wages rising at a steady pace? Do you mean not going back to the idea that African American unemployment was its lowest in history, that Hispanic American unemployment was its lowest in history. Do you mean not going back to that? Is that what you mean? I think Americans want to go back to a nation where gasoline was around $2 or thereabouts a gallon, where America was a net energy exporter as opposed to having a dependence on individuals that run countries like Venezuela and Russia and Iran. I think America wants to go back to a point where our border had some semblance of control to it. There's a great editorial piece in the New York Post about this idea of not going back, going back versus not going back. Do we want to go back to a time when these millions of economic migrants weren't allowed just free reign into the interior of the United States of America by simply saying the word asylum? Maybe we as Americans want to go back to that time. Perhaps we want to go back to a time where we're not catching terrorists, actual known terrorists in the hundreds that have come into the United States of America because Border Patrol was too overwhelmed to catch the endless flow of getaways running into the United States of America. Maybe we want to go back to a time where we didn't have foreign wars popping up all over the globe because of an inability of America to lead and prevent said same from happening before our very eyes. I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia. I'm talking about Israel and Hamas, of course. Do we want to return to a foreign policy that doesn't hand over billions and billions and billions of dollars to Iran just to see Iran turn it over to Hezbollah and Hamas and kill and slaughter innocent people? Do we want to go back to a time where Moscow is told that if you take any of our hostages, we're going to respond with the sword and not with diplomacy? I could go on and on. I mean, do we want to return to a time where we don't have to worry about our children or our grandchildren walking into a bathroom of our choosing and encountering an individual of a different gender or sex, a grown man in a girl's bathroom? I feel like we want to go back to a time where we clearly understand that if you have female sports, the introduction of men in those female sports are going to destroy female sports as a function of the male participating in the sport. But Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they say, we're not going back. We're going forward. What does that look like? We'll continue to explore that during the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour at Twin Creeks Marina. We'll also have Jay St. Clair in the 1 o'clock hour. That is Friday on Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy Friday, August 9th. Back in a moment from Twin Creeks Marina at Timms Ford Lake. It's the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Debbie still being a pest in the Northeast now. And a Dixon County escaped inmate, well, he's back eating prison food. We'll have those stories at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Jay Harper. It is 12:26 right now, almost 12:27. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and we're at Timms Ford Lake, Twin Creeks Marina. Would love for you to stop by and say hello to us. Already several of you doing just that. Come on out and see us. We're here till 3 o'clock this afternoon. We've done this a couple of times over the course of the summer, and we maybe have one or two more opportunities to do it. What a gorgeous marina. They have pontoon boats for rental. They have a beautiful facility here. Drafts and Watercrafts is a great restaurant with fabulous food. I've grabbed a bite or two each time I've been out, and would love to see you coming out and see us this afternoon. You can also give us a call at 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Super text us as well. On the super text line, that is up and running, 615-737-9986. 2498 writes in and says, I just want to say that Mr. Donald Trump deserves our love, prayers, and positive support. Never seen someone so positive and faithful to the mission despite what was thrown at him. He cares so much about what it means to be a good father, a great dad, and protector. Thank you. Jason writes in and says, you should rent a boat and do this show from the water. Kirby, could we do the show from the water? Yeah, Kirby's shaking his head in the strong affirmative. He's nodding his head. He's not shaking his head. My bad. Jason, we could do that. And maybe we will next time around. CJ, would you go with us out on the water if we promise not to throw you in?
Look, I can't swim.
CJ says he can't swim. Nobody asked you if you could swim. I'm asking if you trust us enough to get into a pontoon boat with us.
I barely trust myself in my own bath.
All right, CJ says he doesn't take baths. He takes showers, so I think that might be a firm no. Anyway, one way or the other, coming out and see us. As far as Donald Trump goes for yesterday, we played it live, and obviously I did not have a lot of opportunity to absorb and comment on it in the aftermath. A lot of the aftermath involved Donald Trump, quote-unquote, rambling. This was the takeaway on the part of the mainstream media. Well, when you can't tackle the content of the conversation, I suppose you attack the manner in which it was presented, which seemed to me to be the narrative on the part of the mainstream media. Their immediate takeaway of Donald Trump's over 1 hour presentation before the American people and the assembled press. Donald Trump did something that Kamala Harris is not willing to do. He allowed any and all press members that wanted availability to gather at Mar-a-Lago, and he presented himself to said press. And he said, just ask me anything. Go right ahead. Ask me anything. And for an hour, they did. And sadly, some of them focused on nonsense. There was one reporter that actually suggested that he was not making himself available to the American people in the same manner that Kamala Harris. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm right here. I'm standing right here answering your questions. What the heck are you talking about? Donald Trump, they act as if we don't have memories. Donald Trump changed the nature of what a political rally was. In 2016, we watched this happen before our very eyes. I was there. At Ladd Peoples Stadium in Mobile, Alabama, after his announcement that he was running for president, and he started doing these tours, state-by-state tours, and Jeff Sessions, senator from Alabama, endorsed him, and he came to Ladd Peoples Stadium and got some 30,000 people assembled at Ladd Peoples Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. It was his largest to that point, it was his largest rally that he had held. Now, he's had much larger since then, to include rallies in New Jersey that approached 100,000 people. But, he stands there before the assembled press and answers any and all questions. I thought it was great. You're going to get some of that type of tree talking, as I call it, with Donald Trump. But from a messaging standpoint, I think he's on point, and he drew out the competition, which was the purpose, right? I'll talk about that in just a moment, what the design of yesterday's press conference truly was and how he drew out Kamala Harris by design, and he's resetting the narrative and resetting the competition and fighting in an arena of his own choosing. It's 12:31. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's news time with Jay Harper on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It's 12:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Plenty of sunshine, 86 degrees. A complete weather forecast is on the way. The remnants of what was Hurricane Debbie are now heading north through Pennsylvania and New York, raising the risk of flooding there. Here's ABC's meteorologist, Melissa Griffin.
This is where the significant flash flood threat is in upstate New York and to parts of interior New England through tonight. But all the way down to New York and Philadelphia could see the chance for isolated tornadoes, those wind gusts to 50 miles per hour. Before this all slides out of here off the East Coast through the overnight hours, it will be getting better.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, a man who fled a mid-state work crew earlier this week. He's been caught. The Dickson County Sheriff's Office releasing a statement this morning indicating that inmate escapee Eric Robinson, he was apprehended by deputies with the Dickson County Sheriff's Office without incident. He was located and captured with the help of a tip from an observant citizen. He was found near the community of Woods Valley in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
I'm here, baby. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome in. We're at Tim's Ford Lake, Twin Creeks Marina, right off of Drafts and Watercrafts. A lot of folks coming by, stopping in for lunch or grabbing some, I'm just watching some ice and White Claw move my way. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to talk about anything other than politics, or if you'd like to talk about politics, you're invited to do either of those things. I think, Bell, I might have just accidentally closed out Zoom. If I did that, let me know, and I'll figure something out.
No, you're fine. I can still see you.
Okay, very good. I wasn't sure if I closed it out or not. I'm just trying to navigate. Also, Bell, you'll be happy to note this before we go any further. Although Kirby claims that he could what we used to call jerry rig. I don't know who Jerry was, but apparently he could fashion things.
He was Kilroy's brother.
Okay, Kilroy's brother. Got it. But Kirby claims that he can jerry rig some power for my laptop. I forgot my power cord on my laptop, and everything's running through the laptop right now. But after I'm just giving you no, Kirby, I want to do this. I want to do the countdown. 38 minutes into the show, I'm at 78% power, and it's telling me that my display brightness is using significant energy right now, and Zoom and Google Chrome and everything else that I'm doing. So let's
everything
let's see
that you use to do a show.
yeah, because everything's running through there. My ability to talk to folks on the Super Text line, your ability to see me for what it's worth on Super Talk TV, all my information that I'm imparting to you, all of my source material as we discuss the news of the day, it's all coming from my laptop computer, and I forgot my power cord to my laptop computer. So let's see how that works for us. All right, so the aftermath of the Trump conversation from yesterday continues, and if the media, if all they have to talk about is what they would describe as rambling on the part of Donald Trump, then they don't have a lot to say about it. Bottom line is this. Kamala Harris has not made herself available long form in a press conference setting yet as a presidential candidate. I can't remember the last time that she took questions long form as vice president of the United States of America, for fear that someone would ask her about her role as border czar, for example, or, more technically speaking, and I was talking to our good friend Jay St. Clair, who'll be here in about 20 or so minutes, about this last weekend. More technically, Kamala Harris was given the duty of finding the root causes of illegal migrant flow into the United States of America. And apparently she's still looking, although for most of us, we clearly understand the number one root cause is that the United States of America is the greatest country on God's green earth ever conceived by man, the greatest government and the greatest country. Secondarily, when you allow anyone and everyone to come across and you make said announcement, there will be those that wish to take advantage of that announcement. So Kamala Harris probably wants to avoid those types of uncomfortable conversations, which is why she's trying to avoid having a press. She actually said, and I've seen relatively, in fact, I don't know that I've seen a mention of this in the mainstream press. She actually said when asked, because she responded, Trump's main goal in holding the press conference was to reset the conversation and to remind the American people that Kamala Harris refuses to talk to the press that would be, the original statement of the press is to be a voice of the people, right? To represent the people in terms of this process. Now, they've long since abdicated that fundamental duty. And now they act as many of them, the hashtag NeverCNNs or the MSNBCs or many of these other alphabet soup networks, they act more as agents of propaganda for one political party over another. But their charter duty was to hold the government of the United States of America, representing the people of the United States of America, accountable to the people of the United States of America. And in order to do that, they have to have basic functional access to these people that you want to hold to account. Well, the political left is not giving the press any such access. Joe Biden hasn't. Kamala Harris hasn't. And they continue to refuse to allow the press to have access to them in a non-structured way where they are able to ask questions and get answers. If Donald Trump's singular goal yesterday, and I don't believe it was his only goal, but I think it was a big one, if his singular goal yesterday was to point out the differences between himself and Kamala Harris in this regard alone, he succeeded wildly in making that point. Whereas Trump will stand and answer question after question after question after question after question, whether you like the answers or not, the very fact that he is doing it sets him aside and sets him apart from the Harris-Waltz ticket. They won't answer any questions because they're fearful of what those questions might lead to and the answers those questions might lead to. A good example. But Kamala Harris did poke her head out on a tarmac somewhere and said that she would agree to the debate. She was glad that he agreed to the debate. And when asked when she was going to have a sit-down interview, she said, we're hopeful to schedule something by the end of the month. Did y'all hear this? I have the clip, but I'm on location. I can't play it because I can't route it through the same computer system that's operating all of that other stuff that I just talked about. But I mean, it's out there to be heard, and just trust me when I tell you. Kamala Harris said on the tarmac yesterday that when asked, when are you going to have a sit-down interview? When are you going to have a press conference? When are you going to speak directly to the press? Oh, we're hoping to schedule something by the end of the month. By the end of the month? Friends, it's August 9th. By the end of the month? We have, what, less than 90, 88 days left before November 5th? And you're telling me you're not going to sit down and answer press questions until September? I mean, how long is the press, regardless of where they are on this, going to allow themselves to be used? I mean, she's currently just bending them over and using them for her own purposes and actively changing her position on any number of issues. This is America. And I will vehemently disagree with you if you are a left of center with regard to most of the major issues in the United States. But I don't begrudge you to the right to hold those beliefs. We live in the United States of America. You're allowed to believe as you want to believe. You're allowed, sadly in a lot of cases, to vote in the way that you want to vote. But don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. You were against fracking. Now suddenly you're for fracking. You can't decide where the hell you are on Israel and Hamas. You were in favor of destroying immigration and customs enforcement and, quote unquote, rebuilding it in a different version of itself. You are in favor of the migrant invasion that has occurred in the United States of America. You were in favor of what was called the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually infused $4 trillion into the American economy that further reduced the value of the dollar and caused inflation to go up. When are you going to speak to these things? Are you in favor of men beating the hell out of women in a boxing ring or not? I mean, these are simple questions that merit answers. 1245, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I see on my screen that we have a couple of folks on the line. Let's say, in the spirit of First Amendment Freestyle Friday, let's go to Stephen first up on the Matt Murphy Show as we continue broadcasting from Twin Creeks Marina at Timms Ford Lake. Hello, Stephen. How are you?
Let's go to Stephen first up.
Hey. Hey, Stephen. What's up, man?
Stephen Dan from Huntland. Not far from you. Hey, first of all, the Minnesota governor, he retired in 2004 or 5 to get out of war. I joined in 2005 to go to war. And I did 2 back-to-back tours to Iraq. So he has no honor and no valor. And I'm going to leave it at that. But the actual definition of jury rigging is during World War II, when we had captured German equipment the engineers would go in and refigure the German equipment so we could utilize them against him, and that was called jerry rigging.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Did not know that.
Yeah, you can look at us.
I like it. Learn something new today, Stephen. And by the way, for folks who were watching on Super Talk TV a minute ago, I was not sticking my tongue out to Stephen as he was talking about his military experience. I was sticking my tongue out to Bell, who was telling me to sit up straight.
Well, at least you got somebody looking after you.
That's true, Stephen.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Stephen Dan from Huntland. Take
Thanks,
care.
brother. Appreciate you, man. Stephen got your back, Bell. How about that?
Apparently.
He said, you're my platonic radio husband. You're keeping me straight, telling me to sit up straight and comb my hair. Yeah, no comment from the peanut gallery
Well,
there.
it's just
James?
really easy when you're in an audio format that you can dress and sit and do what you want because nobody can see it, but now they can.
You don't like this though. This is the for those. I mean, this is nice. Look, I could tilt the camera. Look, that's kind of got a nice laid back look to it, doesn't it?
I don't like it. Sit up.
You don't like it? Okay,
Sit forward.
All right,
We're trying to present a host to our wonderful fans and audience in a proper and pleasant manner, and
I got my fishing shirt on.
you're not
I know.
fishing. You're trying to communicate with our
I'm
audience.
laid back. I mean, but we're at the marina. You're jealous. This is what it is. You're jelly. That's what you are.
I'm not saying that's not possible, but I am saying that you need to sit up.
Keep me straight, buddy. Let's go to James in, I believe, the Borough. Hey, James, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guy?
What's up?
Okay, here we go. Tim, he took a Waltz, giving you a heads up here, had a dog in the room. What we have here is the VP. He took his honeymoon. I don't know if anybody didn't realize that he took his honeymoon in China. He taught for a year in China. His honeymoon was on the date of the Tiananmen Square massacre in China. He also made it well known that he's against the tariffs that Trump put in. He talked to Trump about getting the tariffs out of the United States because of he was for, well, here it was, Waltz has frowned over communist, frowned on China's. Communist China does have an adversarial. So, anyways, he's just full-blown red. The guy took 30 visits to China. We've been compromised by this individual, and I don't think Americans realize how much ties he does have to China. It's very disturbing. And not along with all that, he's also for sex changes for kids. You can look that up yourself. I can't give you specific information on that, but it's being scrubbed as we talk now, and he's for taking away the rights of parents to be able to stop sex changes for kids. And the biggest thing is we're just been mistaking Harris's bossiness for brains, and she's had no press conferences for over a year now, and so it's not that she's scared to go. She just doesn't have any substance, and America's in a big mess if we let these fools get in. We need to pray for America. We're in a mess if we let these individuals get into office. And I just want to say people need to really do their homework on this Timmy individual. He's not who they're portraying him to be. And I just want to get your thoughts on that. And people need to do their homework.
No, it's good. And James, thank you. I'm going to give you a lot of thoughts on it in just a moment. So here's what we'll do. We'll take a short time out. James has hit on a few key points. Number one, his incredibly liberal record as governor of the state of Minnesota. The lengths that he went to ensure that children as young as 13, even 12 years old, could receive different hormone therapies and even surgeries. I think they were offering top surgeries, if not bottom surgeries. I don't think bottom surgeries were offered to kids that young because there's an inability. I hesitate to even bring this up, but the only reason the political left doesn't offer these bottom surgeries in these more liberal states is because the way that we conduct the way that these surgeries are performed, that these young people who have not gone through puberty yet have not developed the proper body parts in order to they use the male body parts to create the female body parts. They use the female body parts to create the male body parts. Y'all with me? and they've not developed the package in order to alter it. How sick is this? That they moved so far beyond what gender dysphoria surgery was designed to do that they have to wait for puberty in order for the body parts to develop so they can cut them off and use them for different things. These are the types of things that Tim Walz believes is a government responsibility above and beyond the desires of the parents of the 12 and 13-year-olds. He says that the government has the right to supersede the will of the parents, which is, at its essence, a communist statist belief that the government has more say in the raising of your children than do the parents. It is a long-standing tradition on the part of, dictators. Name your dictator. More on that coming up in a moment. It's 12:52. I'll go down the list of these ridiculous places that he has gone as governor. And you are right. Tim Walz is to China what Bernie Sanders was to Russia. I'll tell you what I mean in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
New violent developments in the war in Ukraine. And Debbie continues to dump record-setting rainfall now that she's in the Northeast. That's coming up at 1 p.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
There's a Debbie Downer joke there somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, but I'll figure it out during the news and deliver it to you next hour. Matt Murphy from Twin Creeks Marina, Timms Ford Lake. We're right off of Drafts and Watercrafts. That's a beautiful restaurant out here on Timms Ford Lake. Come on out and see us. We'd love to see you in Winchester, Tennessee. Much more to do, and I did not have time. I haven't forgotten about you. James, the caller, wanted to discuss the record of Tim Walz. Well, his military service is well established. Over 20 years of service in the Minnesota National Guard, and that's all well and good. The manner in which he left is a topic of great discussion, and how he has stolen the valor of those that served in combat is also a topic of discussion. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss his record as Minnesota governor as well. Plus, we'll have a great conversation with our man, Jay St. Clair, my life consultant, gambling buddy, and he's a pretty good lawyer himself. Jay St. Clair joins us next on Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.